joined here on realagriculture.com at the Manitoba Swine Seminar by Leigh Rosengren of Rosengren Epidemiology Consulting out of Mina, Saskatchewan. And Leigh, today you talked to the hog industry people, the producers here in Winnipeg, about the increasing scrutiny that producers, hog producers, cattle producers, poultry producers, everybody is seeing increasing scrutiny when it comes to antibiotics and the use of antimicrobials in their operations.
Yeah, certainly we're seeing increased media interest and attention in all sorts of practices on farm, one of which is clearly antimicrobial use. So we're seeing it from the media and the consumer end. I think we're also seeing increased scrutiny from our regulators. They are facing the pressure from consumers, but also we're seeing some global changes, and Canada always has to try and keep up with other global regulations. So certainly a closer eye on agriculture than we've seen in the past.
Canada is a smaller player when you look at us compared to the U.S., our neighbors to the south, so we kind of tend to follow what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it behooves our producers for us to follow the United States. Anytime our regulations get too out of sync, it can lead to discrepancies in competitiveness, and generally when we're Canada being an export market, we need to be very attuned to what our clients are asking about these questions as well. So we do export to Japan, to the European Union. Those countries are concerned as well.
So how do our policies currently compare with the U.S. policies, the use of antimicrobials in livestock?
I'd say globally, big picture, we're fairly close. There are definitely some substantial differences that affect how and what we use, but Canada and the United States would be much closer than, say, Canada to Europe. So Canada and the United States both continue to have over-the-counter access to antimicrobials. We both continue to allow antimicrobials to be used in feed, water, and injection. And in general, the types of products that are available in our markets are quite similar.
Could this be a trade advantage if as an industry, we are proactive about this?
I'm not sure trade advantage, but certainly in brand and communicating, Canada Pork does an excellent job of explaining to our international customers what we do well. Canada does health incredibly well. We have some of the healthiest pigs in Canada. Therefore, we have some of the lowest needs for antimicrobial use. As well, we do records very well and reporting. We do what we say what we do, and we record it, the HACCP CQA concept. And so I think that, too, can be really used to sell and brand what we're doing. Absolutely.
So, and that also kind of counters the media reports we hear and see about the role of livestock production in increasing resistance.
Absolutely. So I will not stand here and say that agriculture doesn't have a part in resistance. We do. Anytime we use an antimicrobial under any circumstance, it contributes to resistance. But the good news story in agriculture is that I believe the vast majority of the antimicrobials we're using are justified, are appropriate, it's the right product selected at the right dose for the right time, and we're just not doing a good enough job recording that and talking about that.
So that's where producers, I guess first of all, producers need to justify what they're doing on their operation, but we also have there's a role or a responsibility to make sure other people know that it is justified.
I think you're right. So the first thing as a producer, we all need to go home and we need to know what we're using, why we're using it, and what would I do if this product wasn't available or if I couldn't use it. Make sure you can explain those three things. But if you can, the next time you're in the supermarket and you see someone picking up a product and unsure about it, it's good to explain to them there are no antibiotics in Canadian meat. I make sure of it as a producer, and my government backs that up. Communicating about these things goes a long way to alleviating fear.
So generally, you think the public doesn't or isn't aware of the effort that producers, that the industry is putting into this already?
I would say many consumers are fairly removed from the farm, and so they hear these terms and they hear media reports being thrown around that there's something to be concerned about, and they believe that, and they don't have a real life experience to hang their hat on to know if that concern or fear is real. And so just building the ties again between producers and consumers is very important. We heard yesterday in Europe, in the UK, that producers sort of let that get ahead of them, and there's such a divide now that it's very hard to have that conversation. In Canada, we're fortunate. People are still willing to listen to veterinarians, to producers. Let's have that conversation while we can.
Okay. And like so many other ag awareness issues, there's also room for producers, or we can't just as producers, dig our heels in and we refuse to change, we need to respect what the doctors and the consumers are saying.
Absolutely. In every industry and in every aspect of industry, there is room for improvement. There's always room to improve what we're doing. And as producers, I think it's always good to go home and make sure you've got your house clean. And then next year, there's room to improve again and room to improve again. So digging your heels in and just fighting, saying, we're not part of the problem. We need to be stakeholders at the table that are actively contributing as opposed to playing the blame game that's been played for so long.
And if, I guess, I'm not sure if it's a threat, but if producers don't act, there's a chance of regulation forcing the industry to act.
Absolutely. I fear for the loss of medications in our toolkit. We need to retain access to antimicrobials to make sure that we can continue to treat sick pigs. We're always going to have sick pigs. If we can't treat them, we have an enormous welfare issue. So producers need to be aware that by failing to act and to failing to communicate, we're seen as not contributing positively to this, and there is a risk of losing these products.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.